that Mayo experience.
Welcome to That Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog, the 2026 WM Phoenix Open. Picks, research, guess the odds, which we don't actually have to do. We do have some odds for this tournament already. They've been out for months. That's at the end. You can always hit the time codes and jump around. Smash a like and sub to the channel while you're here, because subbing to that channel gets you into a draw for $250 cash. I'll give it away, Friday before the Super Bowl, so you can put it all on the Super Bowl. And hopefully I can talk to my friends at Underdog as well. If you use code Mayo over there, just play on Underdog, maybe we can get you some bonus funds as well for other people in the draw. But that's one way to do it. There are 4 ways to get ballots. If you just sub to Mayo Media Network on YouTube, boom, you're in the draw. You subscribe to my free newsletter. That link is down in the description. We'll have the write-up and the full picks, everything you need to know about this tournament. That'll be down in the description as well. Go join that for free. And then the big ones, subscribe, rate, and review 5 stars. Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts. That gives you 1 ballot each. You can have up to 4 ballots in this draw. If you want $250 to put down, either for yourself, to take your wife out for dinner, take your husband out for dinner. Hell, just throw it all on the Seahawks to win the Super Bowl. I don't know. But you can win $250, and this is a big week for me. So please go do that now. We're going to have shows every day. Super Bowl, golf, and I already have 2 Olympic shows out already. And on Sunday, me, Meanie, and Jake Hahn, not James Hahn, Jake Hahn, are doing the men's hockey Olympic preview. It's a really informative show. Not from me, from them. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about when it comes to hockey. But I feel like I asked good questions. We got a 100-to-1 runner in there as well. So something to throw your money away on. If you want to bet golf, go to coolbet.com. If you're in Canada, outside of Ontario, best odds in the biz and fastest payouts in the biz. I love Phoenix. Obviously, it's going to end before the Super Bowl. Fingers crossed, because it is a tournament that goes to playoffs pretty often. Didn't last year when, Thomas Dietrich just ran away from everyone. But this field is stacked. It didn't need to be a signature event. It was the first year, back when the PGA was pretending that, hey, the John Deere Classic might be a signature event once every 4 years. Then they scrapped that idea pretty quickly. But Phoenix was on that list. It doesn't need the status. The course is the status. The event is the status. The time slot is the status. And everyone showed up to play anyway. Scotty is playing. Xander's playing. Hideki's going to be here. Spieth is going to be here. Justin Thomas would be here, but he's injured, so he's not going to be here. I shot a text to Michael Kim to see whether his back is okay, whether or not he's playing in this tournament or not, because he told us when he came onto the show during the offseason that Phoenix would be a good spot to take him in one and done, but obviously he had to withdraw from Torrey Pines last week because of a back injury. And being a good guy, he did it before the tournament started. Not like Aaron Rai, who did it after lock. Thanks for nothing, Aaron Rai. Or Michael Brennan. I mean, Michael Brennan took a ton of shit online because he got DQ'd after round 1 of the Farmers, because he told the entire story of what happened. But if you didn't hear it, he has a new data guy who was giving him the pin positions, like, hey, here's how the greens go, here's how you want to play your approaches, and he was making notes in his green book, and he didn't realize that you couldn't do that. He was like Chip from the old Dave Chappelle Killing Him Softly stand-up. I didn't know I couldn't do that, was basically his excuse. He DQ'd himself, so he wasn't active. He didn't know that you couldn't make notes in it. First year on tour, you learn the hard way sometimes. He's back in the field this week as well. Fitz is here. Just a ton of great players are in the field. Obviously, the odds have been out for ages. We're going to dig in using the rabbit hole tool here in a minute, but I get excited for this tournament. Although the Farmers, I do feel, is the real kickoff to everything. More mainstream people start paying attention to golf this week as the lead into the Super Bowl. You can bet on Phoenix stuff along with Super Bowl stuff, and that's off to the races. NFL has been boxed out. It's all golf from here on forward. So it's a very exciting time. Very excited. Kazakhstan. Shout out Australian Open. The ladies with Kazakhstan ended up as a Grand Slam winner. But one thing that we'll notice about this course and some of the picks that we're making this week, outside of the past 2 years, be it Dietrich and Nick Taylor, you generally get a name brand winner here. We're going to try to figure out how to do the model to get it to spit out that type of name for us and try to get to the top of the board. Listen, if you want to make one bet and you bet Scotty Scheffler, go for it, man. It's not what I'm going to be doing this week, but it's probably the more winning play than whoever the hell I'm going to bet. It's a great week for each ways, and I'll discuss that strategy at the very end of the show in the Guess the Odds section, all right? But before all that, it's time to take a look at the course. TPC Scottsdale. It's weird looking at it without all of the grandstands around, but here it is. 7,261 yards of par 71. The Poa Travalis, the Overseed, 7,100 square foot green, 67 bunkers scattered across the ground, 9 holes with water in play. The average distance of the 4 par 3s are 189 yards. The 3 most parred holes on this course are par 3s. The top 2 coming on the front 9. The birdie to better rate on the par 3s has been lower here than tour average 2 of the past 3 seasons. On the par 4s, you have an average distance of 440 yards, and there are 11 of them. The 3 hardest holes on the property are par 4s, 2 of which come in the first 5 holes of the back 9. Historic driver usage here is up around 86%, which is far greater than running tour average of around 69%. It was even higher than last season. The par 5s have an average distance of 557 yards. All 3 have an eagle rate over 2%, and 2 of them have a higher birdie rate than par rate. Driving accuracy is traditionally lower here than your average PGA Tour event, 56% to 61%. There is a DFS streak to watch out for as well. Late on the back 9, there is a gettable stretch, holes 15, 16, and 17. But in terms of wraparound birdies, neither side plays favorably. It's not like it was at Torrey Pines North last week, where starting on the front 9 was a huge advantage. Here, front 9, back 9, it don't matter. If you're playing front to back, 5 of the 6 holes in that range, 7 to 12, play over par with 11 being the toughest on the property. That makes a back to front sound better, but it's by far the smallest of margins, not nearly enough to move the needle. 11 players who have hoisted novelty checks in Phoenix have also won at the Players' Championship. Scottie Scheffler joined that list with his win at Sawgrass 3 years ago, but really, it's 12 if you believe Cuss, because Hideki, won in 2020, even though not everyone had completed their first round. But if you include his fake win, then it's a dozen people who have done the crossover. And I was trying to figure out why that might be the case, and I really don't have a great reason for it. They're both TPC courses. That's great. But when I think of Sawgrass in my mind, like the Wyndham Championship really sticks out. Heritage, those shorter type precision courses, not necessarily this pure driver heavy course. So I thought that was somewhat interesting. There is a bit of a crossover from Craig Ranch, especially for that middle tier of players, if that's a route that you wanted to go. But the stats that have correlated to finishing position the past 5 years beyond their traditional strokes gain metrics have been par 5s, eagles gain, par 4s gain. There's 5 holes, 450 to 500 yards at Scottsdale, 3 of which, as I mentioned, are the most difficult on the course. So like most weeks, approach and putting matter the most of any stats. But at Scottsdale, it's like a completely flat distribution of tee degree metrics that you just don't see at other events. We get tournaments where approach might be 3.5, 4 times as valuable to the winner in the top 5 as driving and chipping, but that's not the case this week. It's a complete game. And when you start taking a look at some of the winners at this course, and like last year, Dietrich and Nick Taylor might be a bit of an aberration from that, but there's 2 very obvious correlations if you just play narrative. Brand name winners win in Phoenix, guys that you know, and most winners are U.S. Open winners or consistent high-end finishers at the most difficult major. It's weird. Brooks, Webb, Woodland, all former U.S. Open champions. 2-time winner Scottie Scheffler, maybe you heard of him, has 4 top 10s at the U.S. Opens over the past 5 years. Hideki has a pair of top 4 finishes at the U.S. Open, including a top 6. I mean, not even including the top 6 2 years ago. Ricky has 3 finishes inside the top 5. Nick Taylor blows all that up. And Dietrich actually kind of played well at some of these harder PGA championships and U.S. Open. But Nick Taylor's from like the school of win or miss cut. It's possible. The attack strategy is the key. Despite playing about 400 yards shorter than the South Course at Torrey Pines, expect most of the field to attack with drivers, as we saw last year, which was kind of incredible, with more than 61% of all drives going over 300 yards and 31% going over 320 yards. Because not everyone's going to hit the fairway, you need sort of an all-around game there. You got to be able to drive the ball well, but you need to be able to recover, to scramble, to get it up and down from the sand, to make some of these shots from behind a cacti. And there's an elevation component to this as well that could possibly play in. All 3 of the par 5s are reachable in 2, but number 15 is the water magnet, the agua magnet, much like its brethren, number 18 at TPC Twin Cities, you got to carry the hazard to reach it in 2. Over 70 balls typically find themselves nestled at the bottom of the lake during the tournament. Despite there only being 3 par 5s, they combine for the 5th best 2-score par overall average when going for the green, minus 572 in 2020. Most of these stats I have in 2020 because they released a whole list of them for all the holes. Now all they really do is just give us broadcast notes for holes 16 and 17 because apparently that's all the people care about. But this really hasn't changed over time. TPC Scottsdale annually sits inside the top 5 in courses with the most water balls at over 225, which you wouldn't expect from a desert course just off the top of your head. Again, I mean, another place is Sawgrass where ball goes in the water. Miss the water, maybe you'll be good. And beyond the par 5s, there's the drivable par 4 17th. It's the spot on the course to gain back significant strokes. It's only 332 yards. Every player in the field can take a crack at the green from the tee box, but with water looming on the left side, both eagle and bogey are in play depending on the drive. It's not an ultimate risk reward though, because even if you put it into the water to the left, you take the drop in the water just before it, you can, I mean, sometimes you get up and down for par. Like at worst, you're making bogey. At best, you're making eagle. But it should be a hole that you do birdie. And what you do off the tee should be dictated by that pin position. Simply just going for the green, unless you are so accurate with your driving and have that distance. If it's at the back, it makes it really tough to putt it if you get it on the green from over 90 feet away. You're better off like settling into a spot where if you do have a good short game, you can get it up and down pretty easily. Spinner back and boom! You are good to go. I mentioned Poa Travalis greens. They used to call it Tiff Eagle Bermuda, overseeded with velvet bent grass. It's just Poa Travalis. It's the same thing that we saw at the American Express and what we'll see at Valspar, Honda, and the Players' Championship. I'm never going to stop calling it Honda, by the way. It's just how it is in my mind. This event had gone to a playoff 6 of the past 9 years, with the widest margin only being 2 strokes, before Dietrich posted a touchdown and kicked the extra point on everyone last season. All-time, 10 players have won their first appearance at Scottsdale going back to 1932. Brooks, Stanley, and J.B. Holmes are the only players to accomplish that this millennium. Greens in regulation are higher than the tour average, while hitting fairways is slightly below. Most courses, 56% to 61%. Not a big problem, but as reflected in the greens in regulation rate, the rough isn't all that penalizing, although there's not that much of the rough. There's a lot of sand everywhere once you start veering off of the short grass because, newsflash, you're in the desert. You can just ask Spencer Levine, who, as I mention every single year, got the cacti stuck in his ass and smoked a half pack of cigs on the back nine. The cut line has been between -1 and +1 9 of the past 10 years as well. If we go over to the rabbit hole, which you can get with your Fantasy National membership, I think everyone's over there now. It's great news. And the Fantasy National lineup builder that everyone enjoyed so much, myself included, is in production to be fixed right now over at Fantasy National before it gets parsed over to the rabbit hole. So we want to get it back up working there before it gets transferred over to Betsperts Golf and the rabbit hole, because I love that lineup builder. I like it better than the optimizer. I know a lot of people do, so just throwing that out. But betspertsgolf.com to get yourself the rabbit hole. Everything is up here. Putting pretty easy. Scrambling from the short grass pretty tough. Off the tee is pretty easy. Again, the big driver heavy. You can see the scorecard up on the screen. But here's what we were talking about earlier. Driver usage, 86% as a 5-year average, peaked at 90% a year ago, with 31% of drives going over 320 yards. 52% driving accuracy a year ago. Even when you're losing some accuracy and sacrificing that for distance, you need to go bombs away. So this has become a bigger strokes gained off the tee event that I think that people want to realize. And again, that's why the US Open crossover has gone so much hand in hand with this. But an overall tee to green game, but be able to be very good off the tee. And that can be a great place to do it. Strokes gained off the tee per drive, about 18% higher at Scottsdale, and there's the relative difference. You can find all of this in the course data stats over at Rabbit Hole. I'm just not going to read a spreadsheet off the screen for you, but some of the things that really did stand out were the 320-yard drives, the driving distance 41% higher on average than the tour average over the last 5 years. That's huge. Driver usage almost 40% higher. Some of the negatives that you see, the rough penalty is pretty down at Scottsdale. It's a 27% in the negative kind of thing where you can get away with it. You can hit greens and regulations. Not that penal. The average proximity, though, feet from the short grass is about 43% longer when you're chipping at Scottsdale versus the tour average. That's another interesting thing that you can go through. And then you can see the average approach shots of all. Like, where are the approach shots coming from at Scottsdale versus some other places? So what you see here, the 250-yard plus is way down, 26% lower than your average course, because most of the par fives are actually attackable in this 225 to 250 range. That's why it's higher, 22.6. And the big ones, 150 to 200, 150 to 175, 17% higher. 175 to 200, 17% higher as well. So that's going to be your key range for approach play this week, and that has to do with the longer par fours. Again, a little bit longer of a course, although it's not entirely difficult where the U.S. Open is difficult. You're just seeing longer approach shots, who can hit it high, who can load it into the green. Taking a look back at last year's tournament, I mentioned the Dietrich runaway. It was kind of ridiculous. Everyone just kind of thought he was going to gag it away, even though he had that huge lead going in. He wins at 100 to 1, minus 24, 7 clear of my guy, Michael Kim, who's got that back injury. Daniel Berger, both coming in second place. The year before that, Nick Taylor won in a playoff over Chuck Hoffman. It was actually quite a fun event. He was the first round leader by 5 strokes, 7 better than Hoffman on Thursday, 5 behind him on the weekend, but Nick Taylor shot a 60 in the opening round. You can see how he ended up doing it if you go to totals. It wasn't so much off the tee. He played well enough off the tee, but big on approach, huge on putting. Nick Taylor gained almost 9 strokes putting and gained 2 around the greens. Chuck Hoffman ended up gaining 7 on the greens and 7 on approach and just lost marginally around the greens. Nick Taylor just went full stones on Charlie Hoffman, though. Even in the playoff, he just made every single putt that he needed to make, and boom, he was good to go. You see, Sahith Theegala came in 5th that year. And I want to go back to the first Scheffler year. I want to say 2022 was the others. Theegala came in 3rd. Theegala's playing some good golf right now. I bet him here last year, and he was god-awful, but he's starting to play well again. You see a lot of these name-brand players. Look at this from the first year that Scotty won a tournament. This is the first win Scotty ever had. We're looking at 2022 right now. Scotty, Cantlay, Brooks, Xander, Theegala, Noren, Billy Horschel, Hideki, Justin Thomas. That's a name-brand leaderboard. Then you got Fitz, Rahm, and Bubba Watson and Louis. Rahm and Fitz, obviously, U.S. Open champions. There's Brooks. Brooks is back in the field, so he will last one in 2021 when he chipped in on 17. We got him that year. That was awesome. Scheffler's second win was less of a runaway. Nick Taylor came in second. This was an elevated event. The Signature Event Series had just started, and they named Phoenix one of the signature events. It was cool to see everyone play there, but then this tournament doesn't need, as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't need that signature event status. The crowd is an event. The course is an event. People like this event, and it draws a really good field, as we've seen anyway, so it doesn't really need to force players to come and play. Look at this, almost 10 strokes on approach for Scheffler that year. Putting, obviously, Nick Taylor Rahm was a bit higher. Justin Thomas, had he have just made some putts that week, probably could have contended, but it was Scotty by 2 over Nick Taylor. So despite the name brand players that I mentioned, Dietrich wins at 100 to 1, Nick Taylor at 125 to 1. But before that, Scheffler at 12 to 1, Scheffler at 25 to 1, Brooks at 40, Webb at 14, Ricky at 18. Brooks before that, when he won for the first time, that was 18 as well. Hideki won as the second favorite off the board here when he won his second of back-to-backs, and he was the 4th favorite the year that he won the first time. So you can just see a lot of these different players coming up here. Last year, the field wasn't as strong because we had Scheffler in his second start back. Where did Scheffler finish last year? He was still dealing with that hand injury. Yeah, he was 25th last year. I think this was either his worst or second worst finish. Lost a bunch of strokes around the green. But you can see, as we kind of scroll down here, just a lot of bigger name players once you get past Dietrich, like Berger, Spieth, JT. JT just loved this tournament, can never win it. Robert McIntyre, there's McNeely, Taylor Moore, Minwoo, Rasmus Højgaard, we're all up there. Seb Straka, Cam Young. Again, just names that you would expect to do well at the U.S. Open or Players Championship, all of a sudden start lurking up the leaderboard at TPC Scottsdale. Obviously, Dietrich cannot repeat his performance from a year ago because he is now on LIV. So unless the Saudi Wealth Fund decides to purchase Scottsdale right after this event, then hold a LIV event there, he will not win in consecutive years, unfortunately for him. Here's the thing. Endurance athletes never talk about this, but heavy lifting and training can quietly wreck sexual performance. Long cardio, high cholesterol, bad sleep, under recovery, it all hits the same systems that control blood flow and hormones, and when circulation drops, performance drops everywhere. Most guys reach for stimulants or prescriptions, but that's a blunt fix way downstream. Nitric oxide is the master switch for blood flow, endurance, and longevity. Once you understand that, Joy Mode makes total sense. If you want to support sexual performance the same way you should support training and recovery naturally and intelligently, Joy Mode has got a deal for my listeners. Go to tryjoymode.com/Mayo or enter Mayo at checkout for 20% off. Joy Mode, the electrolyte packet for your dick. Underdog's expanding the game. You already know their player picks. Pick higher or lower on player stats. Today, Underdog prediction markets are live in 25 states. Back your squad with spreads, handicap for closer game, or totals, higher lower combined score, combined with player picks for bigger payouts. New customers play $5 on fantasy, get $75 in fantasy bonus entries. Code Mayo. Team picks, player picks, all on Underdog. Cash App just released a new status program for the way that people actually spend Cash App Green. It unlocks new ways for you to pay, get rewarded, and easily grow or manage your money on your terms. Now, when you spend at least $500 a month with the Cash App or Cash App Pay, you earn green status, which unlocks benefits like up to $200 of free overdraft coverage, higher borrow limits, and custom personalized cashback offers every Friday at places you love to shop. Turn everyday spending into status with Cash App Green. Download Cash App today or visit cash.app/new to learn more about this and other great features launching now. For a limited time, new Cash App customers can earn $10 if they use code CASHAPP10 in their profile at sign-up and send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank. Member FDIC. Cash App Green overdraft coverage borrow. Cashback offers and promotions provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. So we've seen where everything goes in to play at this event. Let's try to figure out what we're doing here. For, Scotty Scheffler, he's going to be a very popular play this week, I bet. But we'll go to the past 12 months and sort everything out. We can load in, Ron put in the comp courses that are up here. So Sawgrass, Nicolet's Tournament Course, Chapultepec. A lot of these desert-style courses. The Pete Dye Stadium course, we obviously mentioned Sawgrass as a complete crossover. And the CJ Cup isn't in here right now. So that's one that I want to look at. I just try to find some of these middling names that are there. So TPC Craig Ranch is what we're going to start with. I'll have this in the article as well. Just down in the description, click on the Substack link and you can get it sent directly to you. And this is more for finding some of these middle players, ball striking wise, that we can go through. Most players just have, let's go back past 4 years and see who pops up here. The only reason I kind of do this is because KH Lee has performed pretty well at both of them. Let's try to find guys who've done the same. So Xander, Scotty, then Scotty by a ton. Xander, Spieth, Takumi Kanaya, Hideki, EVR, Eckroat, Eric Cole, Matt McCarty. It might be worth another Matt McCarty look again this week. It's funny because Siwoo has played pretty well at Craig Ranch, and obviously he's coming in with great form despite the blow-up at Amex. But overall, his TPC Scottsdale WM Phoenix Open, he's been getting a lot better over the years. He started off really terrible in Phoenix, so the last 4 years have been a lot better for Siwoo. Maybe it's because his driving has improved so much, but 67th, cut, 62nd, cut, 50th, and then top 30s each of the past 4 years, spiking at a T12 2 years ago in 2024 in Phoenix. So that's pretty interesting to think about with a guy that plays this tournament every single year and comes in with the most consistent form that he's had at this point of the season. I know that he's won Sony before, he's won Amex before, but week over week over week, it's just not going away. This is not something I'm used to seeing from Siwoo Kim, but hey, here we are. And he's played pretty well over at the crossover. Clearly, he's a players champion as well, so maybe he's finally getting his sea legs under him that way. Goddard, Rogers, Knapp, Daniel Berger, Marty Dew up there along with Bez, S.H. Kim. Can't even remember how he finished at Torrey Pines. I'm doubting he did all that well, or else I probably would have remembered. You got Alex Smalley, who actually popped up at Amex last week, and he did pop at TPC Scottsdale a year ago, and you can see in his 8 rounds averaging 1.2 strokes per round at Craig Ranch. Now with Scotty back in the field, he was 80-1 this week for Torrey Pines. Didn't have a great week. Maybe it could be a time to go back to him this time around now that he's going to be like 200-1, and we'll see if he can put anything else up. Nico Echeverria WD'd from the tournament last week, so that was the first thing I wanted to look at was Craig Ranch, so we'll pop that one back out. And you can always go into the expert models and see what's going on. Oh, look, Ron already, you know what? I have started to do the models with Keith on the Wednesday morning show. Thank you for supporting that Wednesday show, by the way. It's doing great numbers. People really seem to like it, and I believe that Keith is going to be on the course at TPC Scottsdale this week when we do our show, so hopefully he has some good inside the ropes knowledge of what's going on. Let's just load up what Ron put in so far. I think that's fun to go look at. So Ron has put in, so this is the model that Ron has right here. Listen, Ron's very good with this stuff. So he has strokes gained driver heavy from the past 2 years at 20%, strokes gained approach with large greens from the past 2 years, strokes gained putting on bent grass and or Poa Travalis from the past 2 years, around the green short grass proximity the last 3 years because it's difficult, short grass scrambling. So we really wanted to widen the range on that for a lot of people. So all rounds over the past 3 years, comp courses he put in. I loaded up those comp courses earlier, and that's just a very rudimentary one that he made to see what that generates us out. So that gives us Scotty, Xander, Victor, Poston, Sam Burns, Corey Connors, Morikawa, Straka, Siwoo, Kurt Kitayama, Wyndham Clark, JJ Spawn, Tom Kim, Mav McNeely, Billy Horschel, Jordan Spieth, Ben Griffin, Davis Thompson, Max Grazerman, and Keith Mitchell. That's the entire top 20 of players. Even someone like Finau, who had a hole-in-one. Good for you for making the cut with a hole-in-one and still doing nothing with it, Tony Finau. Congratulations on that. But he still comes in 23rd in this longer-term model. So I enjoy where this one is going. I think it's a pretty cool way to look at everything. So you can always do that by, when you're on the main tab, the expert models, you can put it in. We'll try to generate one right now and figure out what we want to do. I'm going to delete everything that I got in my model right now. Just did it so we can go a little bit easier here. We're going to go strokes gained off the tee, and I don't probably need the past 4 years to look at. Let's go past 12 months. Just strokes gained off the tee. Normal, we could go to difficult driving. We could go to driver heavy. I'm just going to take normal strokes gained off the tee. So off the tee, 12 months, and I'll have this particular model that I'm building right now in that article that is coming out either on Sunday evening or Monday afternoon. Past 12 months, boom. We're going to chuck that one in. And we're going to go to tee to green overall because I do think this is pretty huge. Tee to green overall, we probably don't need. Actually, I'm going to cancel that one. We're going to shrink the size and just go past 9 months on that. I mean, we can take past 9 months, past 36 rounds and take a look at it. So we'll go tee to green, and we're going to chuck that one in there as well. It's probably all we need right now. I like the idea of going into conditions and going to bent and Poa Travalis. Or we can just go to Poa, we can go to bent, just because you're going to have similar type of stuff coming off that. We're going to apply it. And we're going to go to the past 2 years for this one. When you're taking putting samples, I think that's a smarter way to do it. And then we'll take the past 36 rounds, and we'll go to Poa T, bent putting. And you can always go into the model later on to see the actual ranges. So it's past 36 rounds over the past 2 years to try to get a bigger sample. You can see guys like Hao Tong are up there, Michael Brennan, and my guy, Zach Bauschu, who ended up making the cut again. This guy might actually be good. I might have to bet him top 20. He may be like 800-1 this week. So he probably won't be 1,000-1 like he was at Amex, but it's worth taking a look at because he's playing pretty well once again. Scotty Scheffler has his 36, but these other guys, 4 rounds, 8 rounds, 6 rounds. Ben Griffin has his 36. Like everyone who matters for this tournament has their 36 rounds in. Guys that are really good. That was strokes gained total on those. Strokes gained putting on courses that matter. Nakajima in 9 rounds, Hao Tong in 4 rounds, Sam Burns in 34 rounds. The Da Vinci Code, Dan Brown's got 1 round, so that's very nice of him. Ari All in 34 rounds, S.H. Kim in 33 rounds. Lee Biota and Jeffrey Kang's got to be Kang! They only have one round each. Other guys who are great on these surfaces putting: Scheffler, Horschel, Straka, Harris English, the Bridge Man, Pearson Cooney, Nat, Brennan, Griot, Gary Woodland are all up there. And it's not like Gary Woodland from his win at Phoenix. It's Gary Woodland from his past 36 rounds over the past 2 years. We're taking a look at that. So that's kind of interesting to figure that out. I want to go to approach ranges right now, but I want to reset my filters before I do that, just so I'm not only doing it for Poa Travalis and bent courses. We're going to proximity ranges, and we're just going to take overall proximity, and we're going to really weight this 150 to 200. So 150 to 200, that was the main thing that we were looking at, and we're going to go proximity from that range and add that in. So again, past 2 years, but past 36 rounds. So most guys are going to be drawing from the past 4 or 5 months, not the 2 years, but some of the guys that are returning from the Korn Ferry Tour, well, they might be different players at the moment. I do think this is still somewhat interesting to go look at. And I think that Ron added something. Where are we at here? Bogey avoidance, birdies are better gained. Yeah, let's chuck in birdies are better. Birdies are better, percentage. Once we start getting enough rounds that qualify for the 2026 season, I'll just start using the current year because that's the better form that we want to look at. But I still think it's a bit too early in the season to disregard the longer term stats. Obviously, that's why we're using past 36 rounds. We want to weight more of what guys are doing now over anything with the way that they've been playing. But some of these guys have one qualified round. It's not really going to tell you much. Just want to throw that out of why I'm doing it for past 2 years, but shrinking the sample to past 36 rounds. Floor ceiling stuff. Yeah, I always find this one really interesting because you can go on any of them. If we filter by conditions, you know what? Let's try this. Let's go to US Open, and we're going to apply it. And we're going to go past 4 years, past 5 years. Past 5 years, US Open spikes for tee to green. Now, some guys aren't going to have a lot to go in here, and we're going to take a look at guys that gain 3 strokes tee to green or more at US Opens over the past 5 years. I know it's a really weird thing to put in, but I'm going to use this as US Open history. US Open spike potential. Guys that can not necessarily spike up and go score, but just do so much better than the field. That's the sort of consistency that I want to see. So guys that pop up in that stat, now a lot of guys have many different rounds. Rasmus Nergaard Peterson is number 1. Ari O is number 2, but that's 4 rounds and 2 rounds. Actually, he is not number 2. Let's see. For strokes gained, tee to green, 3+ rounds. Ben Griffin in 4 rounds. Goddard, Eckroat, Morikawa, Hideki. Okay, that's interesting. Then you're into Xander, Jaeger, Spieth, Fowler, Hovland, Scheffler, Fitzpatrick, Rasmus Nergaard Peterson, Grazerman, Woodland, McNeely, Rasmus Højgaard, Johnny Kiefer. So a lot of guys at 25% in this metric, with Ben Griffin being the best, albeit only in 4 rounds. Very interesting to see Chris Goddard up here, big off the tee player. This we know. We know that he can make a few putts from time to time, but in 8 rounds at the U.S. Open, he has gained 3+ strokes tee to green in 3 of his 8 rounds. That's a lot. Morikawa, 35% of rounds over his 20. Same as Hideki and same as Xander. Funny to see his name. That's not a guy that just in the top of your mind correlates really well with, obviously, tee to green, it works out for him, and that's the puttings where he loses everything, but U.S. Open performance, whereas Scheffler, despite the fact that he has the 4 top 10s in the past 5 years, only 30%, so behind Morikawa and slightly behind Victor Hovland, although Victor only has the 13 rounds to play with. Fitzpatrick and Scheffler, well, they both did duel down the stretch at, where was it? That place outside of Boston with Francis Umlaut. The Country Club? Brookline? Is that the name of it? Man, I forget stuff sometimes. Some things I can remember like that. Other things cannot remember for the life of me. Fitzpatrick beat Scheffler. He beat Zalatoris, actually, in the playoffs. I think Scheffler missed it by a stroke or 2 strokes. I remember that may have been the last time I bet on Scott. No, the last time I bet on Scotty Scheffler was last year's Genesis, I believe, and he did not win. That was no fun. What else do we want to look at here? So I threw that one in. Par 4 and par 5 scoring is obviously something I want to throw in. I want to see this miscellaneous stats. Launch angle, spin rate, club head speed. I wonder if club head speed and ball speed is something that will rear its ugly head here. Obviously, probably not. Although Rasmus did okay last year. There's Goddard, Cam Young, Nikolai Højgaard. So the Højgaards. Woodland is up there. He's a former winner. Brooks is up there. He's 15th in ball speed. Maybe Rasmus Niergaard Peterson. He did make the cut at Torrey Pines. Maybe this is a spot to go look at. Obviously, when you're Scotty Scheffler, you're just not as high up there as Scheffler's behind Jordan Spieth when it comes to ball speed. It's not like he sucks. He's 28th. His club head speed is 24th. So he is still very good. I would probably want to take a look at guys from this range. And again, Nick Taylor is such the outlier in this. He's like 77th. But weird guys win all the time. Like Webb Simpson ended up winning here too. He ended up making a ton of putts. But where's Hideki's at the moment? It's funny that he's 53rd in ball speed right now, although I bet you when he was winning this tournament, he was one of the higher and probably top quarter players percentile-wise when we were looking at everything. So that's kind of interesting to take a look at. Par 4 efficiency. So I want to go to par 4 birdies or better. We're going to throw that in. Par 4... so it's still on past 5 years, but it's just past 35 rounds. So par 5 or par 4 BOB, we can shrink it back to the last year if we want to. It's going to probably give us the same stuff outside of like the very weird handful of people. Par 5 efficiency, we're going to add par 5 birdies or better. P5 BOB, and that's still coming from the past 36 rounds, but a nice long-term sample of all of that. Miscellaneous metrics, finishing position, rolling averages, all things that we can look at. Scoring. I do want to add eagles because you can make eagles at this course. And I want to go back past 36 rounds, past 12 months. You know what? I want to use past 75 rounds for this and go to eagles, just because that way it's probably still not long enough of a sample, but it kind of takes out courses that might have, hopefully takes out most of the noise between the courses with easier to get to into type holes, that kind of thing. Ones with easier par 5s to make eagles on versus more difficult. I don't want to penalize someone for not playing easy courses and playing harder courses with the par 5s trying to get there in two. So we'll just take a look at that. If people are wondering over the past 75 rounds, the best players in terms of eagle rate, Thorbjorn Olesen, Victor Hovland, Rasmus Niergaard Peterson, albeit why are we only at 4 rounds here? What is happening now? Oh, what do I still have on? I still have US Open on, that's why. Let's reset all the filters on this and go through. We're going to click off of US Open and apply that. Probably need to go take out some of the stuff. This is the one thing you got to watch yourself on here when you're going through everything. You just don't want to get caught up. Always be wary of that. Just keeping that in mind. So now we're going to go. Now we have like real samples of people here. So the best eagle percentage of guys. Oh, my guy, Shooter Sean, as I've been informed his name is, but we just call him Shooter Yella. Shooter Yella from Canada. That's my guy right there. First, an Eagles gain. Brennan Thorbjornsen. Zach Bashu is up there. Rico Hoey, who's just been bad. Brooks, Kevin Yu, my man, Crazy Carl Phillips. Captain Phillips. There's Chuck Hoffman. Obviously, he has contended at this event in the past. Nico, Kitayama, Scheffler, Roy, Mad McNeely, Rasmus Højgaard. So let's chuck in Eagles. Now that we have our US Open filters off, that's almost how you spell eagle, so close enough for me. We're going to throw that in. We're going to go back to par 4 and par 5 efficiency and re-put those in. Par 4 birdies are better. P4s. Just because we have the proper filters on at this point. If people were wondering, past 12 months, and that was 75 rounds for those. We'll do that for par 5s as well. And just take the past 75, do a longer term sample of these ones, par 5s. Boom, chuck that one in. Now I think we're about close enough as we need to get to. We can go to create model and it will throw up all the things that we've put in. That's a lot of things to be putting in right now. And obviously Keith and I will go through, and anyone else who makes it, be it Joe, Noonan, Ron, I think Vincenzi is still making models up here and here as well. So if you want to take a look at what they're doing, again, underneath that expert model section, you can check it out. I think that driving means a ton here. I'm going to weight it at 20%. And then we're going to get 1/3 of that mixed into the mix here with strokes gained, tee to green. We'll call that 15%. That putting range will go 15%. Overall proximity range, call that 15%. So we're saying that driving means the most of everything here, but so does scoring, which starts to mix everything else in. So we'll go 10%. What are we up to now? Strokes gained, tee to green 3+ at US Opens. We're just going to weight that at 5. You know what? Let's weight that at 10 as well. And then we can go 5, 5, 5, 5 for eagles, 5 for par 4s, 5 for par 5s, and see what we got cooking. We'll save this as an expert report. Call it Phoenix V1. And I can put it down from the show if you guys want to go reference this. And we can try to figure out who we have popping up here. Save and generate. What do we got? Share that tab. And it's Scotty by almost 20 points on Pearson Coody, who is the next closest person. Scheffler, Coody, Brennan, Kitayama, Siwoo Kim. And you can see that everyone from Kevin Yu, Jake Knapp through Coody, who I mentioned, that's 2 through 7 on this list, are all pretty close in the overall total rankings. Cam Young is there again. Wouldn't hate going back to Cam Young. Out of all of the top players at Farmers, he is like the one guy near the top of the odds board who actually ended up playing okay, at least through 2.5 rounds at the time that I'm recording this. Spawn is up there still. I'm kind of worried about Spawn a little bit, that maybe he and Ben Griffin were a bit flash in the panty, and last year was their years, I kind of thought, coming in. Not to say that I haven't wasted money on 2 of them each of the past 2 weeks, just in case, but here we are. Thorbjornsen, Haotong. Haotong is doing pretty well in all of these numbers, albeit in a short sample. But again, another place where driving accuracy isn't the biggest thing. That way he can kind of go toe-to-toe off the tee. We know he can fill it up. We see that he's performed pretty well with the U.S. Opens over time. Let's see a few more of those guys when they got weighted in for U.S. Open play who are up there. Kitayama was up there. Spawn, obviously Spawn. Niergaard Peterson. Yeah, but Niergaard Peterson rates out really well in a lot of these metrics. He's only 38th in the model. That's because he just doesn't have a ton of rounds that can go in and count for you. But most of the guys that popped up high on that tee to green from the U.S. Open, outside of Niergaard Peterson, Nikolai Højgaard, Xander, Smotherman, John Perry, Adrian Dumatujai are up there as well. Pearson Coody, Akshay Bhatia, Haotong, there's Ben Griffin. So Corey Connors back in the field this week as well. Matt McCarty too. I mentioned McCarty a little bit earlier. It's just he continues to play good golf. And his strokes gained off the tee numbers, I think that they're going to get a little bit better. I think he's gaining at the South Course right now. Didn't gain a ton at American Express. That's okay. Like, he's not a bomber by any means. But you can see, just even at some of the longer courses, like, he's not usually a huge negative. He was at the U.S. Open, but he was just straight up bad at the U.S. Open. That's going to happen from time to time. The guys are going to lose. By and large, he is gaining off the tee. At the Players' Championship, he gained. I think that's important. Last year at this event, he sucked. But he sucked starting last year. He made one cut and didn't finish better than T20 till he got to the Players' Championship. That is 2.5 months worth of golf before he finished any better than T48 on tour. And that was coming off a win. He won, and then he sucked for 5 months, and then he started getting it back together. So I am more in line with the way that he's playing right now. T3, T2. Last week, the American Express, he made the cut at both Sony and Farmers. He's starting to play better golf. He is someone that I think that I would want to go to here, and hopefully he can pull a Nick Taylor, hit a bunch of fairways, hit a lot of good irons, and then fill it up enough on the greens in order to compete the rest of the time. Normally, this is where I would try to guess the odds for the WN Phoenix Open, but they've been out for like 5 months on DK Sportsbook, so I can just kind of tell you what they are. I don't know if this is where they're going to end up, but I think it's a pretty good sense of where everyone is at right now. Scheffler's plus 190 in 120 feet. He was 3-3. I think he went off at plus 325 at Amex, albeit more players in the field at Amex, but better players are in this field. I think if you bet him at 190, bit of a sucker's bet. He probably goes back to plus 250 to 3-1 to open. I don't think that he'll get bet on at that price, so he'll probably end up getting plus 350 by the end of it, although people might be just done with it right now. Always good. Listen, I'm not going to be one just to be, I might lose every single week this year by not betting in the non-Scotty Scheffler market, but one thing I would suggest to anyone, that any site that offers the no Scotty market, always compare it to what the actual odds are, because some guys are like 1 point of difference. If that's going to be the case, then by all means, go to the not Scotty market. I know that on a lot of the books that I play, there's like a 25 point difference, and I just don't think that actually equates to what Scotty Scheffler is in the market. If I lose to Scotty, so be it. That's what each ways were made for me. But sometimes at certain books, the non-Scotty market is a bit slow to update, so you can take advantage of that by saying like, hey, I want to bet on Rasmus Niergaard Peterson this week. I don't even know what the hell his odds are. Let's see what old Rasmus is here. Rasmus Niergaard Peterson doesn't even have odds. So let's say he opens at 100-1 this week in the Scotty market. Then you go over and click the non-Scotty market, and he's 95-1. Just bet him at 95-1 without Scotty Scheffler. That's a much better idea. Now, if he's 75-1 in the non-Scotty market, like those odds, that's not enough. That's too much being taken out of it for the non-Scotty market. So just think of it that way when you're playing both markets. You can play one off the other one. and just go through it. Trying to find a place that has each ways, not a bad move. But Scotty's the favorite. Xander, Hideki, Cam Young, Sam Burns are all next. Sam Burns is 28-1 right now. Spawn's 28. So is Griffin. So is Brooks. Brooks is 28-1. Pretty decent at Torrey. Rallied to make the cut. Did it at the easier course, obviously, on Friday. Got himself through. If Brooks gets down to 40, I'll bet Brooks at this course. Wouldn't it be awesome to see I don't even say Spieth, because it would always be awesome to see Spieth in the mix just for ratings. But Brooks v. Scotty Sunday, almost in that same spot that Rahm and Scotty were when this was the signature event here 3 years ago. That'd be so awesome. What a return to form for Brooks. But this is a place where he's won twice, usually plays good golf here regardless of the form he's in. This is one of the places that he gets up for. So if we can get him at 40-1, I'll probably be in on Brooks this week based on what I saw from him at Torrey Pines. Siwoo is at 40 right now. I can see him being lower than that. And Matt Fitzpatrick is 35-1. When we get to Open, he went off bigger than that at Amex. Again, Scotty's in the field, but now so is Xander. So is Hideki. He could get pushed down to 50 because people weren't like super thrilled with how he did at the American Express, but I think this is a much better layout for him. He can go bombs away off the tee and was one of the hottest players over the past 6 months until he got to PGA West. I'm not going to be too concerned about his first event of the year. I'm in on someone like Matt Fitzpatrick here. Plus, I mentioned Matt McCarty down the list, along with Sahith as other guys that I'm looking at right now. Thank you all for watching, by the way. I got Olympic shows out. Me and Jeff are doing, obviously, the Monday show. Tomorrow, I have a full hockey preview for the men's hockey at the Olympics. We're talking Super Bowl all week. It is a great week to be subbed to the Pat Mayo Experience. I'm giving away $250 of cold, hard cash to one of you out there if you subscribe, rate, and review the Pat Mayo Experience on Spotify and Apple. You do one, you get one ballot. You do both, you get two ballots. And if you sub to Mayo Media Network on YouTube, you get another one. Sub to the newsletter, you get another ballot. One of you is going to win $250, and maybe I'll get Underdog to chime in to see if they can throw in some cash too. All right, so go do those things. Important week for me, and I hope we can deliver on the goods for you. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.
Mayo Experience! Experience!